Welcome back to the Peak Performers Podcast. We're wrapping up our discussion with best-selling book collaborator Ali Machate. Today we talk about the power in writing your own book and the types of doors that can be unlocked just by being able to call yourself an author. Your mom would be so proud. All on the Peak Performers Podcast.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Now, you and I have a friend in common, Mark Devine. You helped put his book together. Now, were you the ghostwriter on that project?
I was the collaborator. So strictly speaking, my name is on the book, so it's not ghostwriting per se.
Explain the difference for us.
Honestly, that is the difference. The difference is whether you are truly anonymous or you get some level of credit. So a pure ghostwriting project, you wouldn't have your name anywhere on the book. You might or might not be allowed to mention even working on it. Sometimes, for example, my name is not on the cover, but we have a clause in the contract where the author agrees to thank me explicitly as their writer in the acknowledgments, or I'm allowed to say that I wrote it. It's just that my name's not anywhere in it. So there's a lot of variety there. But yeah, strictly speaking, a ghost is completely anonymous, whereas if you have cover credit, you're a collaborator.
So in a situation like that, obviously Mark provided the details, the structure, and what he wanted to convey, and then you put it into a format that was readable, kind of move from one thought to another, built on each other. Tell me what job did you have in that process?
That was actually a very unique project because the concept for the book, in fact, came from a third party who was the literary agent, a gentleman named Kevin Moran. It was his idea from the beginning, the idea of taking Navy SEAL tactics, and he had worked with Navy SEALs on some fitness books, not Mark, but a friend of Mark's. And he had worked on some business books, and he just looked around the market and he said, you know what? This is silly. Nobody has taken Navy SEAL tactics and translated them for a business audience. And there's such an obvious overlap with, you've taken Mark's programs, the mental toughness, the goal setting, the perseverance, the front sight focus, all of these wonderful tools that he teaches that are rooted in Navy SEAL training. Nobody had done that. So Kevin had the idea. He even had the title, The Way of the SEAL was his title. And he and I had worked together before on other projects. So he brought it to me and I agreed that it was a fantastic idea and I was really excited about it. And we actually approached a different SEAL first, the guy that Kevin had worked with. And he was interested, but he was involved very heavily in another project at the time and didn't feel like he could really devote his full attention to it. So he introduced us to Mark, and I am so happy that he did because Mark was really the perfect guy for this book. For your readers who don't know him, he had an MBA. He went to NYU Stern Business School. He was working with one of the big 8 accounting firms in New York City before he decided to become a SEAL and go through, they have a special program where, even if you're not in the military, you can, there's tests and there's screenings, there's some competition involved, and they accept a very, very small number of people into their officer training program. So I forget how old he was exactly, but he was still a young man, maybe early mid-20s, when he became a SEAL from the business world. And even after becoming a commander and being a SEAL and all of the incredible training and experience that entails, he came back out into the civilian world and became a very successful entrepreneur. He started and sold several businesses. He's still running several businesses. So the merger of all of those ideas, exactly the way that we wanted to do that book, Mark was living it. So it was really meant to be. So the process of writing the book really was taking that concept and bringing it to Mark, and he loved it, and talking to him about the kinds of things he had already been teaching in a lot of his different programs, some of the things that he hadn't been teaching per se, but that really made sense. And a lot of what we created in the book, we sort of created as he was moving forward into that space. He was really, really involved in the fitness space. He has his SEAL Fit boot camps, for example, and he had been doing some Unbeatable Mind stuff, and he definitely had been teaching those things to CEOs and executives and really high performer types, but much more in the fitness world and a little bit less in the business world. So it was a wonderful opportunity. And this is a good example of what I mean when I say thinking about what your goal is for your business and for the book. Mark really wanted to broaden out from the fitness world to be more visible in the business world. He was doing some of it. He wanted to do a lot more of it. So by creating this book that was very specifically targeted as a business leadership book, it helped him sort of shift that audience and shift that platform. And he was able to then build on that to pivot his business and really explode his audience nationally.
So did his keynote speaking come as a result of the book, or was he already doing that? I'm not quite sure of the time frame.
He was doing some of it. He's doing a lot more of it now because of the book, a lot more corporate retreats, a lot more corporate stuff.
What would you say the time from someone launching a good book, to really starting to see kind of an impact on their business? People are coming to you and say, look, I want to write a book. I don't know if I want to invest $25,000 here, but I'm thinking that if I do that, it's going to help my business in the long run. What sort of lag time occurs? And I know it's specific for each one. I mean, there's no tried and true, cookie cutter answer to this, but what do you see typically with new authors?
That's a hard question to answer because it really does depend on so much. But
that's what the audience wants to know. I know so many, because I get this question all the time. Someone asked me just recently, and she's putting together a book, and she wants to make money from the book. And I'm like, oh, that's, I wouldn't invest a lot of money in this thinking that this is going to be your retirement. Right. It might help build the credibility and build a motion or a wave of enthusiasm for what you're doing. But to come out, self-publish or get a publishing deal and expect this book to be your revenue stream might be difficult.
Very difficult. I will tell you that even for authors who are best-selling authors, it's not very common that the books themselves are the revenue stream. I mean, they are a revenue stream. Yeah. But the real power in a nonfiction book especially is not in the book itself. It's in the opportunities the book brings to you. So obviously, when you invest in creating a product, you want to make your money back. You want to end up in the black. I mean, I think that's a pretty universal expectation, and there's no reason not to strive for that. I do think it's a mistake for most people, not everybody, but for most people, to go into it thinking that whatever you invest in the book is going to come back to you directly from book sales, especially in that scenario where you are not a very good writer. It's your first book, especially if you're hiring a ghostwriter, you're talking about that huge investment. That money is really going to come from the keynote gigs, the corporate retreats, the coaching packages you're going to sell, the new clients you're going to attract, all of the different things you're going to be able to do because of the book, especially if the book does well and you get good reviews and you've got some nice things to show for you. Maybe you win a contest, that kind of stuff. That's where you're going to earn that money back a lot more quickly than in book sales alone. The people who really earn money, and I mean significant money from book sales, are people who have a huge following before they publish the book. So to use Mark as an example, because he had already been so successful in business and he is an incredibly savvy guy when it comes to online marketing and building an audience. When we published The Way of the Seal, Mark had 100,000 people on his mailing list.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, it's an excellent book, and of course I'm a little biased, but it's a really wonderful book. It's full of incredible advice. The things that he teaches, the tools he teaches are really, really practical and useful and, give you results. All of that is true. But I would be lying if I said that that book would have been a national bestseller and had as much success as it's had if Mark did not have that kind of following when we published.
I don't know if you know the particulars, but let's take Mark, for instance. You've got a list of 100,000 emails. You send it out. What sort of conversion? And again, I know it's going to be different depending on how loyal this fan base is, but is it typical to see 10%, 8%, 3%?
I have heard all of those numbers, to be honest with you. I think most online marketers would agree that when you're trying to convert people from a list to buying anything, if you're looking at I think the common numbers are usually 4 or 5% is considered good, but then anything higher than that obviously is a lot better. Some people have much more engaged lists than others.
Sure.
So, to use Mark as an example again, not only did he have a huge following, he has a very engaged following. He gives a lot to his community, and so much of it is free, and he's very consistent. I mean, he's constantly putting out new content, and he was doing that long before the book came out. So the kinds of content he's producing now are very different, but he was always doing that sort of thing. So I would guess that, I don't have the numbers, but I would guess his conversion rate was probably a lot higher than most online marketers. He was very fortunate in that case. I can tell you one way that we saw that happen. When you publish a book with a traditional publisher, and I do not think this is true when you are independently published, Amazon allows traditional publishers to do pre-sales. So long before a book's official publication date, for example, 2 weeks before the book came out, we were doing a lot of promotion. The publisher was doing a lot of promotion. I was doing a lot of promotion. And Mark especially was promoting the book to his list and letting everyone know that it was coming out and encouraging everyone to go ahead and pre-order the book. On Amazon, when you do that and the book hits its pub date, it counts pre-orders within the first weeks of sales. So if you get a whole lot of people, as he did, to order the book before it launches, and then it, let's say it publishes on a Monday, let's say a book sells, 2,000 copies in a week, now it's Friday. If there were also 5,000 pre-orders, the first week of sales is going to be recorded as 7,000 copies sold. So that really helped us hit all those bestseller lists right away.
Interesting. How important are those bestseller lists?
That depends on how important it is to you. Some people want to be on a bestseller list because it's really an important personal goal to them. The main reason a bestseller list matters is because of visibility. So, I've seen a lot of strategies where people are self-publishing and they're just trying desperately to become a bestseller on any list. And there's so many little subcategories in Amazon, you can get really, really tricky with that. And I have to tell you, it's kind of crap. Honestly, the only reason to be on a bestseller list is because that bestseller list is going to be read by exponentially more people than people who might just have to randomly come across your book somehow. Many people will choose the books that they read based on bestseller lists, as opposed to, there are very few publications that do book reviews anymore. Many of the major magazines and newspapers that used to do book reviews have stopped. People ask their friends what they're reading and they look at the bestseller lists, and that's how they choose what they're going to read. So that's why it's important. I mean, yes, do you feel awesome when you say my book was a New York Times bestseller or a Wall Street Journal bestseller? Totally. But at the end of the day, the reason it matters is because by hitting those lists, millions of people are going to be exposed to your book who otherwise would never heard of it. So becoming a number one bestseller in a subcategory of a subcategory of a subcategory on Amazon, do you now technically get to tell people that you were a bestseller? Yes, but beyond your ego, it has no value because it hasn't given you visibility.
Yeah, when someone says they're a New York Times bestseller, that means something. When they say Amazon now, I'm just like, okay, so you launched at 2:45 a.m. on a Tuesday in some subcategory and you won for the next hour.
That's right.
That's right. That really doesn't mean anything to me.
It doesn't. Now, it does matter there is a difference between hitting the Amazon overall list. So the top 100 books sold on Amazon overall list, that does have meaning. If you are one of the top 100 books selling on Amazon, it matters that because Amazon is now going to invest more time and energy in promoting your book. Yeah. So it's basically already given them proof that people are interested in it. So now they're going to put more into it. That's also valuable. But the little category bestsellers, truly, they don't mean very much. And 5 years ago, maybe, you could say Amazon bestseller, and that might make some readers more likely to give you a try. These days, so many people are using that term, it's become meaningless, and more readers are hip to what it really means, and they don't really care as much anymore.
Yeah, I'm going to come up with a new list. It's going to be Thor's top 10 list. I'll just put my book at the top of the list.
There you go. That's a great idea.
Endorsed by Thor's list.
Yeah. So it's really that's what it means. It's all about visibility.
Awesome. Well, please share with the audience how they can get in touch with you and some of the services that you're offering.
So as I mentioned, I am a collaborator. I work with experts and small business owners to help them create a book that ultimately serves as a really powerful tool in their marketing efforts and business growth plans. I also run a team of editorial professionals. We provide editing, marketing, and publishing support, and we lead serious authors of all kinds to publishing success. So whether it's a novel or a memoir or another kind of nonfiction book, wherever you are in your journey, we can help you. So you can get free gifts and find out more about us at alimachate.com. and thewritersally.com.
And spell the last name for us.
Machate is Machate.
Awesome. Thank you very much. This has been a great interview, and I really appreciate it. So many people are thinking about writing books, and I think the process is very confusing, and it's great to hear an expert in this area.
Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, Thor. I take my mission to lead more serious authors to publishing success really seriously. I'm very passionate about books, and I'm very passionate about helping people write more, better books.
Well, thank you.
Okay, why do you get up every single morning and go to work? Is it because you love morning traffic, office break room coffee, and meetings? No. The main reason people get together and work is accountability. Of course, these days you can definitely remotely work most jobs. Heck, my phone's got a more powerful computer in it than any desktop my dad's ever used. But it's not about that. What it is about is being able to look a peer in the eye and know that you delivered. A lot of entrepreneurs these days don't have that luxury. They might work from home, they might be a sole proprietor, or they might just be a one-person operation. But accountability is still an important part to execution and overall success. So what do? Well, we've got a solution. Visit thorconklin.com/accountability. Thor's set up a masterful system that's powerful and allows you to connect one-on-one with him. If you think you might be a good candidate, simply check us out. Again, it's thorconklin.com/accountability. It'll be the easiest meeting you sit through all day.
Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. After listening to several of the shows, if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is, send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call. No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, and if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources, discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.